Hello everyone, Blind Gamer here, and today I want to talk about video game journalists. It hasn't escaped my attention that another controversy surrounding these journalists is doing the rounds, and while I will refrain from mentioning names and publications here, I want to instead go through my personal history of video games magazines to see if there has been any change at all to video games journalism since the late 80s. Yes, I'm that old. My first experience with a games magazine was from your Sinclair, a magazine specifically for the ZX Spectrum. However, this magazine was different. It had edgy humour, fantastic covers, thanks to the editor Theresa Morgan, and a cassette tape packed with demos. It wasn't long before the magazine was known as the funniest games magazine in the world, and in 2020, Eurogamer managed to publish an article with interviews on all the staff detailing the story of your Sinclair. Beginning with January 1988 and its blood-stained He-Man sword, your Sinclair celebrated Martek's Vixen not just with a pin-up poster of its star, page 3 model Corian Russell. Brazenly front and centre was also the buxom lady, instigated a swathe of angry parents on the letters pages, with the blood-soaked pig on the June 88 cover and flying teeth and eyeballs of October 1988 doing little to dissuade the distressed mothers. Even a tie-in giveaway of Viz comic, adapted for our younger audience, drew criticism. But, more importantly, sales remained strong. The format was clearly working. Quote, "I took the view that I just thought about my audience who were predominantly teenage boys," notes Moran. "Plus, we wanted a magazine that was pushing the boundaries and a bit edgy and exciting. That was all deliberate. And yes, we did get a lot of letters from parents. Oh well." But with the Commodore Amiga and ST out, the Spectrum's days were done. Some of the staff from your Sinclair ended up working for various Amiga and ST magazines, and the final issue, titled Big Final Issue, was published in 1992 after 95 editions of the magazine. I myself then transitioned to the Amiga, and after being catered to specifically as a teenage boy by your Sinclair, found it difficult to find a home amongst the various magazines available: Amiga Power, Amiga Format, Amiga Action, The One, and many, many more. Of them all, I found the first two quite dry, and obviously aimed at a more serious side, especially Amiga Format. Amiga Action and The One were both magazines I enjoyed reading, for they had retained some of the humour of your Sinclair, but were not at all edgy. The transition from the differences in approach to creating a magazine was noticeable. It was during this time that many magazines realised that adults enjoyed games, something Amiga Action and The One capitalised on. While Amiga Power and Amiga Format covered games, they would also often bundle cover discs with utility programs and have expensive hardware reviews, even for the 1990s. By 1995, however, the Amiga was on its way out, as this article shows. Commodore was being bought after it went into liquidation. Hardly any games reviewed also shows a declining market. Everyone had gone to the next best thing, the PC. I got my first PC in 1995, and I also moved to PC Gamer. As you can see here, I transitioned just as the magazine switched from floppy disk to CDs. It was through magazines like this one that I was able to get demos of games, as I had no internet connection. Inside, the magazine was very professional. Gone had the jokes of old and the edgy humour. Games magazines now saw themselves as professional journalists. 2 years later, I stopped buying magazines completely. My deteriorating eyesight prevented me from consuming them anyway. It was also at this time I finally had an internet connection. Having access to the internet allowed me to download any game or patch I needed, and quicker than having to wait a month for the next edition and hoping my game was on the list. I didn't even transition into online magazines either. Demos existed, and I knew what I enjoyed. However, as the years rolled by, demos more and more were no longer being issued by publishers, and for good reasons. More people were getting faster and cheaper internet. Patching wasn't quite what it is today at day one, but they were easier to fix bugs after the fact. There was a weird limbo of around 2 years where demos weren't available, and the only place to find out if a game was good was to either ask a friend or check in the magazine. Then YouTube happened. Let's Plays had been happening for years on forums, with people posting their progress along with a screenshot and taking suggestions from other users. These forums sadly no longer exist for obvious reasons. With people moving Let's Plays over to YouTube, you could now find a game and see in action exactly how, as a teenager, I would be exposed to new games by being at a friend's house and him showing me. It completely replaced the demo and bypassed the need for a magazine. I'm sure many gamers have their own favourite YouTubers they watch that cover a variety of games that they use as a surrogate magazine. The advantage being that you don't typically have to wait a month between someone posting. What's more, now anyone with a passion for gaming could become a reviewer. Games companies were quick to take note of how YouTube was actively driving sales, and after 15 years of YouTube, we arrive where we do today. Because I had a 20-year gap from reading magazines, the sudden change from friendly, edgy, joke-filled content to what is essentially clickbait activism is a jarring one. Although I can't go back in time to 1995 to find out how people selected their games journalists, I can find something from 2015. Journalism.co.uk has this guide available for people who are interested in getting into journalism. However, the joke at the start comes across as slightly aggressive. Imagine getting paid to just sit around playing FIFA all day, every day. How cool would that be? Now what if I told you that such a life is indeed possible and millions throughout the UK are already doing so? Would you like to know how? It's easy. Just claim benefits. Now get lost because gaming journalism is not for you. As I said, slightly aggressive, and considering the year, it does kind of dismiss anybody who is doing a Let's Play. The author goes on to say, if, on the other hand, you have a passion for writing, love gaming, and are truly devoted to forging a career in gaming journalism, let me just say this, you're not alone. Competition is intense, and just like the industry that feeds it, it's growing day by day. The fact is, gaming journalism, like all journalism, has no place for slackers or quitters. You need to be ambitious, hard-working, dedicated to your craft, and tough enough to take the knocks and rejections that will inevitably come as a result of paying your dues. Further down, he has this section here. Step 1. Get the knowledge. Know your subject well, be passionate about it, and make sure your knowledge is deep and broad-reaching. It's not enough to know the games, you need to know the players. So get to know the industry inside and out, and learn what makes it tick. Just like a music journalist needs to have an encyclopedic knowledge of different musical styles, so too will you need to know about gaming in all of its facets and forms. Online research is always good, but direct experience is better. Play different titles, rate them, and do your history lessons. Who wants to read a film critic who's never seen The Godfather, or a music journalist who's never heard of Led Zeppelin? Like any form of entertainment, the gaming industry has its popular genres and franchises, which all exist in context. Being up on the latest games isn't enough. You need to be a true gaming expert who can trace the history of computer games from Super Smash Bros. And Call of Duty back to Donkey Kong and Battlezone. Despite my initial reservations at the start of this article, I feel that everything mentioned in this article, overall, is an excellent choice. Everything on here I don't think anybody else would disagree with. So in 5 years, what went wrong? In contrast, there's a job available for IGN currently. Let's take a look. IGN's news team is looking for a new content creator to help us not just research, write and edit the stories we are already specialising in, but share stories our readers and viewers haven't yet discovered themselves. This job posting is for either the UK or the US, and they go on to say, IGN's editorial team is made up of all kinds of people that share a common love of games, TV, movies, comics, tech, and all things geeky. We strongly encourage people of every race, gender, sexual orientation and background to apply. If we go down to the required skills, we can see the following. You're passionate about discovering and telling stories, you have strong editorial opinions, excellent writing skills, and are already writing for an existing outlet or your own blog or channel. You've embedded in a world of gaming and entertainment and can spot a story amid the noise. You understand how to write for IGN's audience. And finally, you have established contacts in the gaming industry. Notice what's missing from the old to the new. Under required skills, there's no mention at all of being passionate about games. Now, granted, this is for the editor position, but remember that Theresa Morgan was an editor for your Sinclair, and she definitely enjoyed gaming. There's also a lot of red flags in this posting. Reading between the lines, it would appear they are looking for someone that follows their same ideology. After all, you have to write for IGN's audience. The requirements are also quite vague. Currently, anyone prominent on YouTube that acted as a games reviewer could fill this role, and perhaps that's the point. If games journalism, in any magazine capacity, is to survive the transition to the digital age, they need to understand, adapt, and overcome. In this instance, independent reviewers on YouTube. Judging by their failing revenue, I'd say it's a fight they are losing. If more companies fail to give these magazines review keys for whatever reason, be it negative press or the fact some YouTubers have a much wider audience than these magazines, they won't survive without radical restructuring in the way they operate. Some might say that radical restructuring has already happened and is causing these journalists to have complete meltdowns on Twitter. And I would agree. Swearing and berating someone on Twitter means you lose your professionalism instantly, along with your credibility. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.